Welcome to Startup Chronicles, where we dive deep into the journeys of tech entrepreneurs, uncovering the stories behind today's most innovative startups. Join us as we explore their challenges, triumphs, and future goals. Let's get started. All right, welcome back to the second episode of Startup Chronicles. With me, we've got my co-host John Pierce and the All-American Brock Murphy. This is the week of July 4th, so it's a little fitting. Brock, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So for me, I like to claim I'm a Texan because I was born in Plano, Texas. But shortly after, we made the move to Southeast Missouri, Cape Girardeau, and so really grew up there, and grew up on a ranch. We raised American quarter horses and competed on them all over the country and all over the world. And then in 2012, I kind of embarked on my first entrepreneurial journey, which was my first main one of raising longhorn cattle. So I went to my parents and had this wild idea and told them I wanted to start raising longhorn cattle, and so bought my first cow and just started buying and selling cattle. And eventually sold out when I went to Texas A&M for college. And kind of around then is when my passion kind of switched over to more of the political realm. And so was able to intern on a presidential campaign, and then spent time on Capitol Hill, spent time at the White House, and kind of looked at federal financial management, making sure taxpayer spending is being used as efficiently as the federal government can be, and then also looking at making sure that that spending is aligned with presidential priorities. But very quickly, kind of got tired of the polarization that DC had, and was able to work with NASA when I was there, and so randomly applied to go work at SpaceX and got the role, and so made the transition to Brownsville, Texas, right on the southern border where the mouth of the Rio and the Gulf meet, and learned a ton in that experience and met a lot of incredible people, some of the best engineering minds in the entire world, and was able to just be a sponge around those different people. And then early 2021, kept being approached by parents and teachers and administrators with questions that they had about technology, and very quickly realized that there was a little bit of that disconnect between what people kind of hoped they knew about all of the platforms that our kids are surrounded by, and what those actual platforms can be used for, or who they might actually be talking with, or what type of content they could be so easily exposed to. And so out of that, Parent ProTech began really to support families and try to help people understand technology, leverage it for good. But I'll kind of pause there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love your guys' mission. I think you guys have a really important role in this community. And so let's connect the dots a little bit. Why were your family members or your school administrators or teachers or previous teachers or whatever, whoever was asking you about this technology, why were they asking you? Because your boys got creds, obviously. White House, NASA, SpaceX, everything. Your boys got cred. So is that why they were asking you, or was there other reasons behind that?
No, that was totally the reason why. I'd say, and also being in Texas or being in Missouri, really tried to ingrain myself in the community, and so I feel like I'm a pretty approachable guy, and so it's kind of that reliability, and then combining that with that kind of resume that also adds to that reliability. But it's kind of interesting though, because growing up, I've got older brother, younger sister, and I think out of the three of us, I've always been the least tech savvy, or at least growing up for sure. And so it's kind of funny that I would create Parent ProTech as that kind of least techie family member.
Yeah.
But definitely that reliability that my track record has shown, I think, helped with that.
Awesome. Yeah, well, it's good to know like that somebody that's creating a company like Parent ProTech, it started off as you being an approachable person that people were seeking this information out anyways. So let's talk about Parent ProTech and what it is, and then we're going to go into more about your mission and stuff like that. So tell us, give us the rundown on Parent ProTech.
Yeah, and so kind of mentioning the mission, what we really say at the end of the day is, if we can help prevent just one kid from being trafficked, or just one kid from being bullied, or help prevent just one kid from getting addicted to a screen, then we've won. And so that's really where our hearts and our minds are as a team as we continue building Parent ProTech. And so we've really taken a educational and like preventative approach to the online safety issue. And so when we look at the data that really inspired the team as well, we saw that kids who spend over 3 hours per day on social media face double the risk of depression and anxiety. We see the average age that a kid is exposed to pornography today is 8 years old. We see reports from the FBI that there are over 500,000 online active predators each and every day. And one of the most heartbreaking and scary stats that I've heard lately is from the Girl Scouts organization, and they said in their research, 1 in 4 teenage girls today has a well-thought-out suicide plan.
Wow.
1 in 4.
Wow. I've never heard that stat before. That's crazy.
No, it's heartbreaking. I mean, every time I say it, my stomach drops. I mean, obviously, tech isn't the only factor in that number, but there's definitely a little bit of correlation there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, I think that technology has good and bad, everything like technology, like there's always two sides. It's always a double-edged sword, right? And so I think it's interesting that you guys are doing this research. I'm glad that you guys are doing this research. Cause I know, like, I'm a Gen Z elder is what I say. Like, you can look it up. I was born in 99. And so when you look up like the generation splits, sometimes I'm a millennial and sometimes I'm a Gen Z. But personally, I like to associate myself with Gen Z. I didn't grow up with screens, but I was the first one in my family to have something that's similar to a smartphone. I had an iPod Touch when I was in 5th grade. I wanted one so bad I thought I was going to be the only one at school with one. But then I showed up at school the next day and everybody got one for Christmas. But anyways, yeah, I was so you and me both, we were kind of similar. I have an older brother and a younger sister, but I'm the tech savvy one out of the three. And then surprisingly, my sister's the next tech savvy one, and then my brother, just all hope is lost for him. But anyways, I was kind of the tech pioneer for my family. I loved it. I was always building stuff myself. And when I got that iPod Touch, I mean, I was exploring everything, and my parents had no clue what all that thing could even do. And I was like, I'm going to find out everything that this can do. And so I just remember being young and downloading things just out of the innocence of my own heart, like something like, I don't know if you remember this app, but it was called iFunny.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to laugh. Like, I was like, I want something funny. What's something that's going to make me laugh? So I downloaded iFunny, and that's kind of where memes came from. And so it also had some graphic images on it. And by graphic, I mean pornographic images. And I remember being exposed to those at a very young age, not even seeking them out, which was very interesting for a young child to be exposed to and to see something like that. And they weren't necessarily like nudity or anything like that, but it was just something that a 5th grader probably shouldn't see at that age, at least,
Yeah.
So these stats that you bring up are heartbreaking, but they need to be known, because if they're not put out there, then we're not going to find a solution. And so Parent ProTech is out there to educate families and educate schools about how they can use this technology and how they can allow kids to use this while minimizing or eliminating the threats that are out there, right?
Yes. Yep. So what we typically say is we like to highlight the good, the bad, and the ugly, and really get as much information in the hands of families and caregivers and educators, and they create a healthier balance of technology between a child or a student and their devices. And so you're probably wondering, like, how do you even do that? And so what we've been able to build at Parent ProTech is kind of really first focusing on the family. We've built an on-demand library, so kind of think like Netflix or Apple TV Plus, with content that families can go to when they have questions around technology. And really we're able to answer questions like, help, my child wants to start playing video games. Where do I begin? To, my child is talking to someone they don't know online. What do I do? So those types of questions. But then we can also get into more of, and where we really focus a lot of time on, is like highlighting the specific platforms, apps, devices that kids are on, and helping the user understand like what these platforms actually are, the downfalls, the good parts, why kids like it, helping people navigate these platforms. So we have in-app walkthroughs and showing families the different platforms and different features that they have. And so a common one is like Snapchat, one of the most common ones that families hop on the platform to cover, which is not the best app for a child to have. Even one of the co-founders of Snapchat said in an interview that the reason why he created the platform is he wanted to send pictures to girls that would then disappear. And so if you're founded on a premise, if you have a motive like that to even create it, then it's no shock what the app today is being used for. And so they've got, for my eyes only, tools that you can hide different videos and pictures, often used by teens for nude images, nude videos, all of that type of stuff. The Snap Map is another feature that creates so many security issues, because it shows people that you've added on the platform your exact location at all times if turned on. And now they launched a tool called Map Move, so it alerts people when you move to different locations. And the scary thing is parents just, for the most part, don't realize that these platforms have tools like that so readily available, and a lot of times default turned on. And so it puts a lot of pressure on families to be more engaged, and when new features pop up, because every platform out there is trying to become the everything app today, like what we've seen with Elon's purchase of Twitter with X. A big thing that Parent ProTech is doing is like helping families keep up to date with these platforms. And so when they add features that could be harmful to children, making sure that we're correspondingly keeping content on the platform up to date. But then we wrap every platform up covering the things that parents can do to safeguard these platforms, and then kind of walking through a summary of like the good, the bad, the ugly, and conversation starters to have with your child about the platform we're covering.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I just remember, like, when I was growing up, social media didn't really hit the scene until I was probably around middle school. And I remember downloading Snapchat. I didn't ask my parents to download Snapchat. I just got it. And then I posted on my Instagram, add me on Snapchat. And my parents followed me on Instagram at that time, and they saw that. And luckily, my parents knew They probably looked it up, what Snapchat was, and realized what it was. And immediately they were like, you're deleting that. You're not having that application. And so for the most part, I would say that I think Snapchat is probably one of the most useless apps out there. And that's my personal opinion. It's weird because I have friends that are married and have kids and have Snapchat. And I'm like, dude, grow up. You're an adult now. Delete your Snapchat. I deleted the first social media to go for me was Snapchat. I was like, this is useless. Streaks are stupid. There's no value in it.
Not to interrupt, but
go ahead.
But one thing that we recently did was we interviewed a few teenage girls, looking at
I saw that.
The impact or their what they view of tech and social media and all of that, and it was interesting, and we got a little flack for it, but one of the girls mentioned that, and you could argue with her on every point, but she was saying how she has really bad social anxiety. To me, I blame COVID for a lot of that, and then the relationship that we all have with devices for the most part coming out of COVID. But she said that she likes Snapchat because it's an easy way for her to make friends, to kind of break the ice a little bit before actually meeting and talking in person, like at school. Which we shared the story in this clip of her saying that, and a few people kind of freaked out thinking we were advocating for Snapchat and all this. And obviously you can argue that when we grew up, kind of those awkward conversations that we always had with new people, or that girl in middle school or whatever, kind of helped us shape our communication skills and all of that, and helped us fight through the social anxiety. But it was just interesting hearing the perspective of students that are living from the time they got the phone at really, really young ages, and how that's kind of shaping their viewpoint on platforms like Snapchat that we as adults view as bad, and kind of the Pandora's box type thing.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think it's a good thing that you let the girls talk about their experience, and it's a good thing that you kept that in, because even though you yourself have said Snapchat's not a good app for kids to have, you still letting those kids talk about their experience can help us see how they view it, and how they see it. I think that's a good thing. However, I would disagree with her. I think there's other ways to do it.
Yeah.
But what we did in high school a lot of times was just you'd send somebody a text message game, like the pool or something like that, and then or Connect Four darts or something like that, whatever. But yeah, it's interesting because the kids nowadays have been so ingrained in it in their whole life, and I kind of got to see both sides. Because number one, I grew up in Southeast Missouri as well. I grew up a little bit north from where you are from, and so we were a little behind the times anyways. So I kind of was in a split between, I didn't grow up with social media. I didn't grow up with YouTube and all this kind of stuff. But, since it wasn't so big in my community, I think that's part of the reason why I sought it out so much, was because I was like, this technology is so cool. I want a piece of it. So when I was a kid, I used YouTube a lot. And when I say kid, I mean around middle school, and I would look up tutorials on how to make stuff. I would watch all those bushcraft videos, or there was this guy called Hawk Knight or Wing Knight or something like that, and he would build these cool little things. Or there was one, rest in peace, the King of Random. That was one of my biggest guys. And I would do those little science experiments and stuff that they would have tutorials for on YouTube and all that. But it was just different when I was growing up than it is nowadays. Because I have nieces, cousins, family members that are young and growing up and all this. And what I've seen in them is TikTok was a big one, right? TikTok's a big one, and TikTok's been under some flack for probably the last 5 years, I would say. And that started out as Musical.ly. And I remember my sister having Musical.ly growing up, and me thinking it was the weirdest app ever. And I was in like middle school thinking like, that's weird. And then it shifted into TikTok. And I was one of those guys that was like, I am not downloading TikTok. I'm not that guy. And I was that guy for a long time. And then about 2019, 2020, I was like, all right, I got to see what the fuzz is about. And I downloaded it. And TikTok is one of the best algorithms for keeping you sucked in. Like, they feed you exactly what you want. And so you can doom scroll the crap out of TikTok. I mean, it is just an entertaining app through and through. It really is. But that comes with caveats as well, right? Like, every app that we can discuss has good things, except Snapchat. I would say Snapchat literally doesn't have any purpose. But I do think TikTok has good things. I've learned things from TikToks. There's a lot of good TikTok creators out there, but there's a lot of bad stuff out there. And so ever since TikTok came out and got so popular, you've seen every single app try some type of vertical format video scrolling feature. So Twitter, before Elon Musk bought it, came out. I don't even remember what it's called on Twitter. But it had a name, and I don't remember what it was. Instagram has Reels. Facebook has Reels, I think, as well. And so every app has included some type of TikTok feature. YouTube has Shorts, which I believe is the best one. I'm a YouTube Shorts guy right now. I don't have any. The only social media I have is YouTube, if you count that as a social media, Be Real, and LinkedIn. That's it. That's all I've got. And part of that is because I was wasting so much time doom scrolling TikTok. I was wasting so much time doom scrolling Instagram Reels because Instagram's core app is boring to me. But their Reels, it's just that format. It's just an interesting format. And so let's kind of shift gears and talk about a different application. Let's talk about TikTok for a second. So TikTok has been out for what would you say, like, it's 2024, so almost going on 10 years, probably. Mm-hmm. And it is, like I said earlier, an entertainment app through and through, but it has dangers. Can you speak on some of the issues that you can see with TikTok? Because I know your app, you give a Parent ProTech score to each app, which is like a safety rating, essentially, correct?
Yeah.
So let's talk about each of these. Yeah.
Yeah, and so starting around 2009, all of social media started to change. And that was when the recommendation algorithm was first introduced. And kind of fast forward to when TikTok began, you kind of see an amped up recommendation algorithm that these companies realized really quick that the more they can capture the time and the views of their user, the more money they're going to make. And so more time on the platform equals more dollar in their pocket, more scrolling, the better for them. And so with that, it really incentivizes them to keep building a better algorithm. And also users are going to spend more time and have a better experience if they're seeing the content that they're actually setting out to see and that they enjoy to see. The only problem, or a lot of problems, but a problem that quickly comes up is when you look at kind of the stat earlier of kids who spend 3 or more hours a day on social media face double the risk of depression and anxiety. When you add this mental health piece into the equation and the 1 in 4 teenage girls with a well thought out suicide plan, it creates this really interesting, really scary equation that algorithm is going to sense very quick that this girl is sad. So we're going to send more and more depressing, sad content to her, and it's just going to create a kind of spiraling effect. Whereas in a perfect world, wouldn't it be great where this algorithm detects that someone's sad, depressed? We see the searching for how to commit suicide on these platforms is going up. But what if that automatically killed this algorithm and it automatically went to uplifting content, like you've got this, like you're loved, you're valued, all of this other type of stuff. And so the algorithm can be very, very good, but it can also be really detrimental.
Can I stop you for a second there?
Yeah,
I want to talk about that. So you were saying that if the algorithm detects somebody's sad, it feeds them more sad videos. Okay. And so do you think that this was an oversight on the developer end, on the development of this application? Do you think this is something that they didn't foresee happening?
I think this is where you could tie in where a lot of people have questions about, like, ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, being owned by the Chinese Communist Party and controlled by the CCP, and so when you look at it from that lens, it gets there's a lot of gray area on, like, well, this could be the most ultimate Trojan horse of all time, when you look at it from that perspective. Though I will say, like, I know our team at Parent ProTech has gotten to know, like, the trust and safety team at TikTok, and, like, I know that they're working tirelessly to kind of help create safer spaces for kids to enjoy and families to enjoy. And I mean, when they add the STEM feature where you could only watch STEM related content, I mean, those moves are good. So I'd like to believe that it was kind of a unintended,
oversight.
Oversight. But in that case, I would have thought there would be more movement to correct it than what we're seeing right now.
Yeah. So that's interesting, because I saw the STEM feature come out, like, because that it's part of the app. And I saw that maybe a year or two ago, maybe longer. I don't know. But it's been a while since I've had a TikTok. But I know it came out before I removed TikTok. But I know, for instance, like in China, and I don't know, I don't know if this is 100% fact, but in China, if a kid has TikTok, that they can only view the STEM.
Feature. It's funny you mention that. I was gonna dive into that. So in China, it's called Douyin, and it's really interesting. There's a time limit. There's a buffer in between videos, so you can't just mindlessly scroll. The content is primarily like science experiments to do at home, or like patriotic videos. And so in a study, or in a report that 60 Minutes did a year and a half, 2 years ago, they interviewed kids in the U.S. and kids in China on, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And
I remember that. Yeah.
The astounding answer in China was, I want to be an astronaut. And then same question in the U.S. was, I want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
And so if that goes on for a lot of years, what kind of
skills are we going to have? Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Because, you see it all over social media. We need plumbers, not YouTubers, or we need plumbers, not influencers,
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to me just how all this is unfolding with all the different types of social media. And so, like, in its current state in America, what would you say is a good safety rating or safety measure you could take for TikTok to be safer for children?
That's the $1 billion question in a way. TikTok's hard because you've got the like CCP, like, data question. So taking that out of the equation, some safeguards on the algorithm, I'd say would be good in those cases of, like, mental health, severe, like, mental health impacts. I like the idea of making it more like the Chinese version of, like, having a time limit, having the buffer in between content to help with the mindlessly scrolling issue. But I do think still there's got to be more of, like, the integration between the birth date of the user that has the device to the birth date that's being inserted into the app.
Yeah.
And how easy it is for kids. Like, I did it with Facebook when I was, like,
I did it with Snapchat.
11 like, it's so easy just to scroll up and You know, I changed it like 2 years ago to my real birth date, but back then, the type of content that's so easily available on the platforms, so different than today.
Yeah.
Like I could scroll on X right now and probably see nudity or pornography in 2 minutes because of the bots that are posting it and the rise in OnlyFans models and all that type of stuff. And so I think that age verification seems like a very stupid loophole that we have right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, okay, I wanted to shift gears into Twitter next. So I think this is a good way to do that. So a funny story real quick. I actually got banned from Twitter for 2 months because I got Twitter when I was too young for Twitter. And Twitter has a special place in my heart for social medias because for my whole life, Twitter was my favorite social media. And so I put the wrong birthday in there. And then like literally when I was in college, like a few years ago, I changed my birthday to the right birthday and it banned me for 2 months because I put in the wrong birthday. And I was like, all right. It's like, okay, you know, I guess I get what I get for that one. But
that's why.
No, Twitter is an interesting social media because they're a little bit of an anomaly. For a long time, they never tried to be anything but Twitter. And, you know, all the other social medias, when a trend would come across Twitter or when a trend would come across from another social media platform, that social media platform would adopt that feature, right? For a long time, Twitter did not do that. It wasn't until TikTok came about, and even then they took a long time to put their TikTok feature in, and then they removed it because it was just not good. It just doesn't fit with Twitter. And that's why I respected Twitter a lot, is because they were trying to be Twitter, and they weren't trying to be anybody else. And so the reason I liked Twitter is because the feed was a lot better. You could dictate your feed in such better ways. You could mute certain pages, you could mute certain words, you could mute all kinds of stuff. And so you could curate your feed the way that you like it and get the most important information to yourself. Okay. And so Twitter had a special place in my heart because I could get entertainment, funny tweets, funny videos from Twitter. I could get interesting news. I could get tweets about technology, things that I was interested in, music, all that kind of stuff. I could get all that kind of stuff and curate it in the way that it was best for me. And you didn't have that on any other social media for a long time. And so quickly, Twitter did start to take a downhill and just get boring for a while. There around the time where the talks about Elon Musk was buying it. And it was just not very good. It was a hole for people to complain and talk bad about everybody. And it was bad. Sometimes it was entertaining, especially from like 2016 to 2020. It was very entertaining.
Sure.
And so, but anyways, it got boring. And then Elon Musk started talking about buying it. And then, you know, the whole story about whatever happened, he wasn't going to buy it. And then he got forced to buy it. I don't know what happened there, but he bought it. And when he bought it, I had a little bit of hope that it was actually going to get better. But in my opinion, it got worse. What I see is a lot more crap in my feed. Like if I want to look at the replies, and this is where it gets worse. This is where you can start seeing those graphic images very easily and just stupid ads that you don't want to see for games that don't even exist. So like, I'm scrolling through Twitter. I see an interesting post. I click on that post because I want to read the replies and see what everybody else has said about it. But then the first response is an ad for some app video game. And then if you ever wanted to download that game, it's not even what they were advertising. And then you get OnlyFans models posting as marketing, I guess. I don't really know. Explicit images in comments sections of posts that don't even relate to that at all. And that was super frustrating to me because one of Elon Musk's biggest agendas when he bought Twitter was to get rid of the bots, but it seemed like it got a lot worse. And then Grok came out, and it seemed like when Elon Musk bought it, he said he was going to try to make it the everything app. But I feel like when you try to do that, then you get into the phrase jack of all trades, master of none. And I think that Twitter was a master for a long time of what Twitter was. When you could curate your feed, when the bots weren't that bad, you know, you could easily see if it was a bot and just scroll past it. And it wasn't that frequent. But now everything's a bot. I think the good things that Elon Musk has done with Twitter is the monetization. I think that the monetization factor on that is going to be good if they can get the rest of the stuff together. Grok, I think, is awful. I paid for it for a few months, and really what it does is just scrape Twitter for information, and I don't think that that's going to be reliable for an AI. It writes code okay. I used it for that a little bit just to see what it would do, and it's okay. It's not, when I think Elon Musk is creating something, I think that it's going to be held to a higher standard, but it seems like Twitter's on the back burner. It might just not be as focused, whatever, but I think it's gotten worse. And so it broke my heart that I deleted my account on Twitter. Wow. Because I love Twitter. I really did. I thought it was an awesome app, for a long time. But yeah, why don't we speak about Twitter? I want to hear your thoughts on Twitter.
Yeah. So cool kind of story on Twitter was when I was at SpaceX, I got time around Elon, a good amount of time, lived on site, like worked 18-hour days, 7 days a week. All I did was work. Luckily we had like a tiki bar and like a Michelin star level chef. So like they took care of us a lot. But one day it was like a Saturday and kind of a quieter day, but people are always working on site. And so, but I knew we had a really important tour coming in, and Elon was there. And it turns out it was Jack Dorsey and Rick Rubin, the music guru.
That's crazy.
And I remember walking around the factory with them, like giving them the tour with the entire team, and like stagging coffee and like lower level duty stuff too, but handing Jack and his wife the like cappuccino or whatever that they wanted. But so it was interesting in that moment, especially looking back, of how no one was even talking about the even potential that Elon was going to put things in motion to buy Twitter. And so kind of cool to kind of see that come out and then connect the dots with that visit and stuff that happened while they were there. But I think overall you're right. I think there's a long way to go when it comes to like getting the bot issue under control, and I mean they even came out in a statement or in some of their policies a couple weeks ago on like their position on explicit content and like pornography on the platform, of pretty much saying it's okay, which is disappointing to see. And so like with Twitter, I think you see like that issue a lot. You see kind of like farming for interactions due to the monetization, and so spreading like false information just to get the views and the clicks and the replies. Being an Aggie, I see it a lot with Aggie sports because we have had a bit of a tough time the past few years, and so like everybody like picks on Aggies because it's a huge fan base. It's like kind of culty.
I'm not familiar with that. What is that? What is Aggies?
The college I went to, the Aggies. And yeah, so we've got like over 500,000 alumni around the world. So really big fan base, so they can poke fun at, and then Aggies go crazy and they get the engagement to get the monetization, all that. And so I think there's a long way to go, but also it's interesting seeing the amount of engineers and like the workforce that was cut when Elon took over, and how
was it 80% or was it 20%? I don't remember. It's one of those two.
It was like 80 or something.
Yeah, it was something like
big
that.
Number.
Yeah, it was a big number.
But everybody thought it was gonna like
collapse.
It wasn't gonna work. It was gonna collapse. All of this, and so I think it's also pretty telling of the time that Elon has put into it and kind of what it's become. Even though there's a long way to go, but I think first thing that he had to do was like stop the bleeding in a way, and cut cost, cut that dead weight. Also, I mean, a ton of things that I learned with my time around him and the team, but like step one was always like question dumb requirements, because you don't ever know who made this requirement that you're having to follow. And he said sometimes you'll question a requirement and an intern like 10 years ago came up with it, and there's no need whatsoever to keep doing it this way. And so I kind of thought the same thing that he's doing at X. Like, you've got that quick iteration, and so I think it will get better as things move on. But from like a Parent ProTech child safety piece, I think the issues around like explicit content, going back to the TikTok issue of like age verification, like there are tons of underage kids on the platform, but Elon doesn't really care, I'd say, because it's more active users on the platform. And then I'd say, like kind of all of that opening the door for those scarier issues of like trafficking and intense cases of cyberbullying and all of this all make it kind of a bit of a curveball that I think if parents realize that their kids have a Twitter account and they're under a certain age, that they need to make sure that their kids aren't, because the impacts that seeing that content and causing an addiction to pornography or whatever it ends up being is not going to be a good combination. Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear your perspective on Twitter. You know, I had to get rid of it. It was just so, I just couldn't do it. I'm still hopeful that it will turn itself around and get going in the right direction, like I am with most of this stuff. And so the next big honcho in this is Meta, so Facebook and Instagram. And something recent actually happened with their platform. So there was an experiment done where this group of people created an Instagram account as a 13-year-old boy. They set the age and the gender to 13 and boy. And so what they did was then just see what kind of content it would feed to a 13-year-old boy. And so they kind of did a whole test, kind of like we were talking about with TikTok, where if you're watching sad things or TikTok detects you're sad, then it's going to feed you more of that because that's what you're watching and they want you on the app. They're not really concerned about your feelings, right? They're concerned about you staying on the app. And so they just started watching things. And, you know, if some, you know, lightly suggestive dance or something like that popped up, they would watch it a couple times or something like that. And they would keep watching that. And then it would give them stuff similar to that. And then as they kept doing that, it got more promiscuous and more graphic and kept going down until it was just straight up feeding a video about a, I don't know how to say this in a in a non-graphic way. Let's just say an act that 13-year-old boys shouldn't even know about. Let's just say that. You can go on and look this up and read exactly what it was about, but I don't really feel comfortable saying this on the recording here. And so, but it was an act. It was something that two consenting adults would do. That a 13-year-old boy shouldn't even really know about. And that's what the video that Instagram fed to this 13-year-old boy. And so once that came out, you know, they kind of go ahead.
I'm out, Nolan. Not to interrupt, but I kind of felt like I was sitting in 7th grade biology just now when you were trying to explain that.
Exactly. And it's crazy that we even have to talk to 7th graders about that. But anyways, so they basically come to the conclusion, if a minor was watching any sort of promiscuous content, it would feed them that content. And so this came out and they brought it up. And one of the responses from a person on the team at Instagram was saying that these results are fudged because a 13-year-old boy wouldn't, like, they're not using it like a 13-year-old boy would. And I think that that's a little off base. You know, we were all 13-year-old boys at one point. I think we know that you know, a 13-year-old boy might use it like that, especially nowadays. And so that was an interesting thing for me to read. Some of the stuff that I did research about it was that Mark Zuckerberg was pretty upset about this. I never know what to think about that dude. He's such an interesting guy. All I can think about every time I think about him is that the video of him barbecuing and how awkward that was. But anyways, did you happen to see that in the news, that experiment?
Yeah. And we know a lot of the researchers and teams that did that experiment, but then also, if I'm thinking of the right one, but also other ones that have done similar. And it kind of all goes back to that, like where they make their money on the views, but also the power of that recommendation algorithm. When we talk about Meta, the thing that we're seeing the most is a lot right now is in this rise in AI that we have right now. That most recent case was student had a public-facing Instagram account, like so many people do. Mm-hmm. Some random creep got on went to her profile, screenshot her public, photos, and then ran them through an AI image generator, like a Nudify image generator.
Wow.
And then went to extort her, which the term sextortion is really hot right now. Unfortunately, try to get her to send money, or a lot of times it's money. And there's a group of people in Nigeria that are doing a lot of this type of sextortion ring. But this sextortion thing is where we're seeing a lot of the unfortunate suicide numbers go up. Just because in these cases, the kid doesn't know what to do, and they're threatening to leak it to the school, to their leaders, to their family, all of this other stuff, and they're downright fake. Yeah. Let alone,
and we also know that these AIs can create images that look like a photo.
Yeah,
they probably look as real as they can.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with celebrities as well, too. I know something like with Taylor Swift or something. I just noticed that in passing in the news a few months ago.
Which on that, I feel like it would have been so important if Taylor would have made some type of statement, which I don't know if she has. So forgive me if she has, and she's got a whole platform helping combat sextortion from happening. But I haven't seen it, but how powerful would it have been if someone like Taylor, with such a platform that she has,
could stand up?
Because so many kids feel like they're going to get in trouble when they turn to their parents, in this case, feel like they have nowhere to go, feel like their world is ending. And it's really hard to get Meta to move in certain situations like that. I mean, there are a lot of resources that kids can go to with Take It Down. It's a big one for minors to take down content that's posted on these platforms. But the process isn't fast. But the problem further on that is law enforcement doesn't know the step or what process to take. And these platforms, especially Snapchat, aren't going to move unless there's an order by the FBI or law enforcement to do something. And so there's this kind of battle that we see. But that sextortion piece is really freaky.
Yeah, it really is. And I've kind of seen some of it. There's these weird things that happen, and there's two sides of this coin. So growing up with social, in high school with social media and stuff like that, all my accounts were public because that's just what you do. And most of my friends, guys and girls, were public. And then I would have my friends that were girls tell me guys would message them about being their sugar daddy or something like that, and sending them money. And I actually have a few friends that, against my will, I think against their better judgment, have received some money from them. But it's interesting because you see like these people reaching out to these girls, you know, whether they know this girl's age, know she's in high school, know she's an adult, it happens to pretty much any female that has a public social media. And then for guys, they'll get messages from OnlyFans models like, hey, subscribe. Subscribe. And then you have the extreme cases like what you were just talking about with the extortion, which are the caveats with AI, which, AI is an awesome tool and I use it almost every day. But you're always going to have the people in the world that are going to use it for bad. And so where I think Parent ProTech takes the right step is that they're like, okay, it's going to be hard to eliminate that from happening, right? But what we can do is accumulate the best people and the best stats to come up with solutions that people can use in defense of these things. And so that's what I really appreciate about Parent ProTech and your guys' mission and vision. And so why don't we shift gears into the more positive aspects of technology? Because I know on your website, because I put it there, you guys have a list of technologies that you guys work with and advocate for. And so there's quite a few of those. So why don't we just go through some of those and talk about the good things that they're doing, and the good things that we can see moving forward that other tech companies are fighting for.
Yeah. And kind of with that transition, I'd say like one of the things we focus on, and like one of the core things we're trying to do at Parent ProTech, is when you look at like the pyramid, the base of that pyramid, when it's this conversation between the relationship a child and a family has with technology, the base of it should be like the relationship that's being built. And so like having the conversation, because unfortunately with those stats, like sometimes it's not a matter of if it's going to pop up, but like when it's going to pop up.
Yeah.
And so what are you going to do when those situations come? And so we take that very relational, like how do we foster the relationship between a family to have the conversation, all of that. On top of that, we've got like the resources and the platforms. And then on top of that, like the tip of the pyramid is the restrictions. And we strongly believe that if you just have the restrictions, you're going to miss out on a ton of stuff. And kind of with us all being young, realizing like if there's a will, there's a way, and we can find loopholes to almost anything, or delete apps and then re-download them again to get away from those certain settings in certain situations. But we're really lucky to know a lot of great people and get to work with a lot of great companies who have built like phones that are built for kids, kids front of mind, and completely focus on that. So companies like Gab Wireless or TrueMe Wireless or Bark, Pinwheel, all built.
So these are hardware devices, right? Yeah.
Yes, physical phones. Most of them, all of them have. It's really Android phones with their interface built in. I'm an Apple guy, but Bark has like an app that does a lot of like monitoring on iPhones too, but a lot of these companies have told me like Apple's kind of tough to build from the ground up, because they want to kind of hold things closer to their chest when it comes to like screen time settings and all of that API. And so like a ton of great platforms like that. And then kind of across the board, also looking at like routers to have at home for your Wi-Fi. Like Griffin router is so powerful, found on our website under partners. And then even the other big one is called RO, and it's like a box that you can have at home. And it kind of creates a little bit of a competition of who can have their phone in the box the longest to kind of foster that competitiveness in a family. I described it horribly though. it's much more than a box, and the competition to throw your phone in it. But so there are a lot of great people working on solutions specifically built for kids. But on the flip side, I'd also say, like, kind of like I mentioned with the TikTok trust and safety team, like, we've gotten to know the Apple team really, really well, and a lot of them are our parents.
Yeah.
And big advocates of Parent ProTech, but also doing everything they can to make sure that kids have the tools to, like, to really excel today in such a tech-centric world.
Yeah.
And then work with us and other partners and work with their own parental controls to create an even safer environment.
Yeah.
Because tech isn't going anywhere, and it's got a lot of great tools that we can work with and leverage for good. But we just got to all band together to help with those bad and ugly impacts.
Absolutely, yeah. In regards to just being hacked in general, Apple's a little bit more safe, but in regards to all those other apps, like, that's on the app. It's not really on Apple. I've been a Mac guy my whole life. John over there's a PC guy, Windows guy, Android guy. But I just love
Linux guy.
Yeah, I just love. I love the brushed metal and the way that Apple makes things beautiful, and they're just very creative. And that's they strike a chord in that side of me. And I've ingrained myself so deep in the Apple ecosystem that it's very hard for me to switch over. But hearing I don't think people really realize how, like, unsecure Wi-Fi really is. And so, like, your router is accessible easier than it may seem. And one guy that really points these things out, his name's Ryan Montgomery. And he's a big influencer, cybersecurity guy, wicked smart. He's a white hat hacker. And he goes, like, straight to the source of the evil, where, it's kind of the flip side of what you guys do. You guys go to the defense and you go to the family, like, how can we keep this from happening from ourselves? This guy goes kind of both, but he targets more of the source of the evil here, and he hacks into servers on video games, servers on just anywhere on the internet, the dark web, anything like that. He hacks into these servers and finds child predators. You look at this guy and you would think, like, man, he needs some serious protection around him. Because he's kind of got a build like me. He's a little taller and he's a little lankier. But then I saw him in a video recently where he was wearing short sleeves and he's got, like, tattoo sleeves. I was like, oh my gosh, I never would have seen that from him, or expected that from him. But this guy has a similar mission for you guys, because he sees the evils that are happening within these technologies that we use every day. And he's going out and educating people on, like, okay, this is how easy it is for me to get into, your office building that's protected by NFC chips. You swipe the NFC chip, you walk in, and then he just hacks it and walks into somebody's building. Or he will be like, okay, watch what I can get from your phone just from walking past you. Watch what I can do with your credit card. Watch what I can do with this. Watch what I can do with that. Or if I just set this device that looks like a rock, in a subdivision, I can connect to all these routers and get all your passwords and all your information and stuff like that. He's an interesting guy, and I just wanted to bring him up to see, if you have seen him and seen what he does, because you guys align so much in your mission, but you guys take two different routes. So I just didn't know if you had seen him or anything like that.
No, for sure. And I mean, the great part about it is, like, we need more people in the space, because different people are going to kind of mix better and kind of really align more, I guess, in a way than, like, I might connect better with an audience that he might not. Mm-hmm. And so really with this goal of, like, how can we keep all kids safe and help all families navigate? Like, we need more people like it. And so he's wonderful and love what he does. And I think it'd be awesome. Like, there are other people like social media accounts called Cybersecurity Girl that just gives like quick, under a minute tips on, how to create a safe password or how to delete your data off of all of these different platforms, or how do you do XYZ. And so I think having that conversation and really getting as many different avenues out there to really get that information in front of people is the more the merrier. So it definitely goes back to, I heard it the first time from Dr. Ben Carson, but he said, I don't think he came up with it though, but he said a rising tide floats all boats. And so I think that's very true in this kind of online safety, cybersecurity space.
Absolutely. Yeah. I say all this because I think it would be such an interesting collab. So Ryan, by the slim chance that you see this, reach out to this guy, Brock, over at Parent ProTech.
Heck yeah.
I think that'd be a really cool collab. You guys could possibly get him in some curriculum. That'd be cool. But yeah, that'd be awesome. So why don't we shift gears here? And let's take a look at your app. John, why don't you take over for me and let's walk through Parent ProTech and see what all the fuzz is about.
Yeah. Perfect. So, Brock, are you going to share your screen?
Yeah. So, and one thing we haven't been able to mention was our For the Classroom curriculum. And so I'll highlight that in a little bit. But John, you want me to go ahead and do a quick run through?
Yeah. Go ahead and do a quick run through for us.
So coming out of COVID, we also realized that families are running from one thing to the next, and different families have different needs when it comes to understanding different technology across social media, gaming, AI, streaming platforms, kind of the list goes on and on. And so we built the on-demand platform to really account for that and to really answer questions that families are having, whether it be about summer screen time, or we interviewed a neuroscientist looking at the impact of tech on the brain. Really fascinating, kind of scary. And so just to show an example, we've got social media categories, gaming, AI. We've got subject matter experts in these different areas that are on these platforms all the time. That way we can really have the right people that are presenting this and in this all the time. And so we really try to meet families where they are on the tech journey as well. And so whether they have that basic knowledge of what is it, or they want to just know what features help keep their teen safe on the platform, we've got everything. And we're in that platform, like I mentioned earlier, walking people through like how to set it up as a private account, how to hide explicit content, how to pair it up with a family account, kind of taking all the questions out of the equation. And so we typically partner with schools, churches, public libraries, communities, and making this resource available, leveraging different federal or state funds to make it really easily affordable too. But what we realized was, if we go to a school, we're in over 250 today. If we go to a school and all of the family content as well as in English and Spanish, wanted to add that. But if we go to a school, odds are it may be really, really tough to get 100% of parents to log in, watch content, and be really engaged in this. I mean, we talk to schools all the time, and they're having a hard time getting parents to even look at report cards right now. So how are we going to deal with that issue? And so what we thought was, and we brainstormed with a couple of school partners, was let's build a curriculum to build online safety, digital citizenship foundations directly with students. And so the school can divvy out time throughout the year to make sure that we're covering these really important topics, whether it be about digital etiquette and like trust issues, or sharing information with care, to cyberbullying prevention, to understanding online advertisements and what all that means to even as we scroll down, content creation. So going back to the TikTok discussion earlier, and so what we've been able to build is we've built a platform, and we're going through a bit of a design change over the next couple weeks. But we've made it where an educator can hop in. They've got a full lesson guide based off of the most common technology standards across the entire U.S. And they've got all the vocab, all the slides already built out, all the activities built out, and then a video to go alongside it, where if they have 10, 15 minutes in class, they can show a video and talk about it. Or if they have a full lesson period, they can have everything they need to make it a really engaging experience to really hone in on these important topics that we have to talk to our kids about.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely as kids are just immersed more and more. And I think there was definitely a shift when COVID hit and all of the schools went remote and kids went from going 3 or 4 hours on a screen a day to 8 to 10 or more. It really it was almost a mental shift into people are just glued to their screens. Kids are just glued to their screens now more, and that's just more exposure they have to these threats that are online. Totally. I know. So I have one child, and working in technology, and I've dove into the threats a little bit of online safety in preparation for this and before that, and we try to keep our child away from technology as much as we can, because children at that age, he's 15 months right now. A lot of kids 15 months are stuck watching Bluey for hours on end or things on Netflix, and they don't have the mental development at that point to discern when I need to step away for a while, or I need to not respond to this person, or I need to not watch this. There's no safeguards on that aspect. They don't have that development there to have that discernment,
Yeah. I feel like too, I feel like when I was younger, I had the belief like everybody wants to see, like, I want to see what's amazing and like all your dreams come true. You want to see all my dreams come true, and like this really kind of utopian view of the world. And I think scary thing is like the online world is far different from that, and there are so many people out there that are preying on both the young and the old, and people of all ages. And so it's definitely tough.
Yeah, and it's just going to get harder the more into the digital age that we go into. So as a parent with my first child, what are some steps that me as a parent with a young child, or whether it's a 9-year-old child, what are some steps that we could take to protect our child growing up into this ever digitalizing environment that we live in?
No, that's a great question. I'd say a lot of times when we talk about the younger age child, it's about like one, limiting screen time. It's so easy to just give the iPad or turn the TV on and let them. It keeps them quiet, keeps them out of your hair, all of that. But in that conversation with the neuroscientist, looking at the impact of screen time and technology on the brain, that really impacts the development of the child. And so she references a study of a mom who had their baby in the living room without the TV on, and she's in the kitchen, and the baby is glued on her the entire time, listening to what she's saying, that then leads to learning how to speak quicker compared to the parent that has the TV on in the living room. Baby's going to be glued to the TV the entire time, not paying attention to the mom, not paying attention to the words she's speaking, just glued in. And so understanding those impacts as well. And as the child gets older, moving towards active screen time versus passive. So building things or learning things. I mean, that's great advice for people of all age, not just younger children.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing too is like being very mindful of the type of content that a child is being exposed to, because we've talked about throughout the entire episode of how easy it is for that algorithm to kind of go haywire a little bit. Not haywire because it's being built like that, but haywire when it comes to like what a parent would want their child to see. And so I think turning to platforms like YouTube Kids and making sure that even though that child, as they get older, is going to hate it or run out of content that they want to watch, I mean, there are a lot of controls in there to limit the type of content that's going to pop up. Even though even YouTube Kids has content and has gotten a little flack for kind of pushing different ideologies on families without them realizing it. And so I think it's kind of like that. Like as a parent, watch some of that content with your child, even though you're going to be bored out of your mind.
Yeah.
But just kind of taking that initiative there. And then as the child ages, kind of the largest thing we see is like that first device is going to be really important. And so many families today rush to give their like 8-year-old, 7-year-old an iPhone. And so I think that's kind of one of the largest turning points in a child's tech journey is that first device right there.
That first device. Yeah, would you recommend some of the devices that you mentioned as a first device, or more so just locking down maybe a standard iPhone or Android?
No, I think especially for younger kids, we definitely think those partners like Gab, Trumi, Pinwheel, Bark, all have really good options that parents should go to. And maybe as a child ages, gets into high school or later in high school, you can shift them to an iPhone from there.
Yeah.
But like Trumi and Gab both have watches as well that have really simple like calling and texting, like preset message things that you can do. Also like GPS locating, all of that type of stuff too. And so even on the watch piece, because an Apple Watch can have so many different apps and a lot of loopholes there too. So
yeah, I feel like we're getting into a Black Mirror day and age. Some of those Black Mirror episodes are a little too close to where things are now. But yeah, I think that, I think you guys are part of a great solution for the things that we discussed today.
Thank you.
Your guys' app has been, so in case you guys didn't know, I'm a software developer on this app specifically. And it's been quite an awesome journey to be able to be a part of something like this. Because not only have I experienced some of the stuff that you guys talk about, but I see it as well with my family members that are younger and stuff like that. And so it's been really cool to be able to build this thing out and see where it goes. Within I think it was probably 3 months of the launch of the app, we got about 3,000 users, which was pretty crazy. And I think we can chalk that up to Brock's networking and his personal skills there. It was cool to see that from my perspective as well. And so this is an awesome app. Why don't we talk about your team a little bit and tell me what kind of team members you have outside of yourself? Because I know when we talk about the app, it's you and Josh usually. But what other team members do you have on the team that are helping you guys push towards your mission?
Yeah, no, I'm very grateful to have, obviously, like Nolan, you, Zach, who have helped build even Crystal for a little bit, to help us kind of have everything we do right now, and to also continue iterating to make it even better. So I've got goosebumps just talking about it right now. But so Joshua Adams is on the team. He's I met him while interning at the White House back in the day, and we stayed in contact ever since, and always joked about getting some time together on the same team again. And so brought him on April of 2023. So just crossed over that year mark not too long ago. The most amazing human being you could even ever meet. And he and his wife are so cute. They're like long time. I think 8th grade they started dating, and
wow,
and so cute as can be. But so really thankful to get to also work with like best friend as well every day. And then we've got John Rush, who's kind of our gaming content
See the guy with the
specialist.
cats, tattoos.
Yep. So he, amazing guy too. Just had his third child 2 weeks ago. So dad in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, heart of gold, and he's a streamer. He leads like a lot of esports stuff at different schools, and so he's having the conversations with students all the time on what platforms they're using, how they're being used, interactions, all that. We've got a whole Spanish team helping us with that front to make it more accessible to as many people as we possibly can. We've got a lead curriculum designer who's an Apple Distinguished Educator. Sam Neal is her name, and she's fantastic. And the content that we're pushing out on the school educator front is insane. And then we're adding some more full-time employees right now too, a creative specialist. So if anybody's interested, feel free to reach out. Creative specialist. We've got some like business development opportunities. Business development opportunities popping up. We've got I'm trying to think, a lot of opportunities popping up just because we want to go quicker. We want to reach more families and have more of an impact. Continue iterating to make it better. And so we're excited for what's to come, but the team is everything. And I think also finding, kind of building that culture along the way too of why we're doing it. And it's pretty remarkable, kind of like feel very blessed that we've got the team that we do, and we've got the momentum that we do as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like your whole team has some part of this mission that you guys have. Like you have fathers and family members that, like I said earlier, seeing my experiencing some of it myself and seeing my family members experience this as well. Like sounds like your whole team has a little bit of skin in the game. It's probably, one of those companies where the why is even more important than the solution.
Totally.
And so I love getting to work with you guys and talking to you and Josh on a bi-weekly basis. It's been a pleasure for sure. So why don't you go ahead and tell us where we could reach out to you guys, where they can sign up for the platform, how people can contact you, and give us a little sign off.
Yeah. No, and thank you again for having me. And so parentprotech.com is where you can view all of what we're up to. Our partners page is where you can find some of those different tech options if you're figuring out what phone or device or router to have at home. So recommend those folks, as well as foundations that support families as they navigate this tech world. that we support as well. And then we've got a B2C option, so anyone can sign up on our website, but we love partnering with communities, whether that be your church or your school or whatever that might be. And so we've got a contact us page, and would love to hear any opportunities, or if you'd like us to meet with your principal or your pastor or whoever it is, we'd love that opportunity. And so I think the kind of closing thing I'd say is it really takes a village in this battle of technology that we're currently in. But we love technology. It's not going anywhere. And so how do we leverage it for good? And how do we create that healthy balance of technology in our lives and in our kids' lives? And so that's really what we're shooting for.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that was the All-American Brock Murphy, keeping your kids safe online. Thank you for listening. Peace.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Startup Chronicles. We hope you enjoyed, and if you want to see more from Noble Creative, please like and subscribe.